Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast on this Tuesday night, September 24th. I'm your host, Stephen Negishi, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the associate editor of sports blog Awful Announcing. It is Ken Fang himself. Ken, how you doing tonight?
Good evening, Stephen. Good evening, everybody. Nice to be back on with you. We have a lot of things to discuss, so we don't have much time to do it. So let's get right to it.
All right. Let's start off as usual. We look back at the NFL Week 3, and then look forward to the Week 4 actions. And listen, Ken, neither of our teams did very well last Sunday, unfortunately. And so let me start off with my Chicago Bears first and foremost. It's unfortunate that this was supposed to be the game that considering that the Indianapolis Colts gave up 261 yards against the Green Bay Packers a week ago in Green Bay. This was a game that the Chicago Bears should have run the ball and make a more concerted, committed effort in doing so, considering how bad the Colts are defensively. And they were playing without their best player, DeForest Buckner. And for, Matt Eberflus, who was a Colts defensive coordinator before becoming the Bears head coach, this was not the the homecoming, or at least the return he was certainly thinking of. But the offense, unfortunately, remains a massive problem because the Bears' offensive line just can't hold up their end of the bargain. They're constantly giving up pressure. Obviously with this is a Colts team that really doesn't have Jeffrey Simmons in week 1 against Tennessee, or Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter the week before against the Texans. They don't have any big name. Excuse me, as I'm fighting cold, unfortunately. They don't have a big name pass rusher. Of course, the one that I aforementioned, DeForest Buckner, who's their best defensive lineman, was out of the game. So the Bears had a chance. And if you saw the game, like I did the entire game at a Buffalo Wild Wings outside of Detroit, from start to finish, the Colts did all they can to give away this ball game. Anthony Richardson was just, god awful, except for some of the, deep ball throws. A lot of the stuff was, unfortunately, he was missing some throws. I think he only completed about 50% or just slightly above 50% of his passes. When the Colts had the, ball inside the 5-yard line, Richardson threw a horrendous interception that halted the drive. And then to start the second half, on his very first pass, he overthrew a receiver, and the pass was picked off by Jalen Johnson. The Bears had the opportunity. And again, the Colts were doing all they can to give away the game. But somehow the Bears offense, unfortunately, couldn't come up with enough points to beat the Colts. Caleb Williams was, overthrowing some passes, unfortunately. But in the second half, I think he started to kind of develop a better feel for the game. I think some of the throws were much better. He and fellow rookie Rome Odunze really connected on some big plays throughout the ball game. Odunze had 6 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. Hopefully the first of many between, Williams and Odunze. But unfortunately, the game will always be in this game. It will be defined by that stupid 4-down territory inside the 1. They had the ball inside the 5, and they got to 1-yard line. Okay. And then on 4th and 1, they run a speed option to the side where the Colts defensive linemen and the defenders were outmanning the Bears offensive line. And you saw a photo, if you saw it, Ken. the offensive lineman was just basically stumbling all over the place, and Caleb made a toss to much maligned running back DeAndre Swift, and Swift ended up losing 12 yards on that 4th and goal play, and that was a disaster. And you could make and there the Bears really lost it there, unfortunately. And 3 weeks in, and you had if you count the entire off season from January all the way until August, that 7 month span during the OTAs and training camps and preseasons, the offense remained just discombobulated, and it is just frustrating to see that you hire a new offensive coordinator, but it seems as though they're running the same style of offense that they got rid of, when they fired Luke Getsy a year ago. And then, there was a quote in The Athletic about the Bears' offensive struggle that Mike Sando asked about, or somebody, asked. I'm sorry, this was Brad Biggs. My apologies. Brad Biggs from the Chicago Tribune asked about why the Bears' offense remains a mess. There was a damning quote from a scout who says, they're running the same. They hired a new guy to run the same offense. And quite frankly, Ken, I have nothing against. I don't have anything else to add to that, because I'm still seeing a lot of screen passes that aren't executed properly. And because you're running that consistently with the receiver and a running back, you ended up losing 4 or 5 yards easily, whether it's first down or second down or even a third down. And more importantly, though, I'm seeing the same mistake from last year that we're seeing with the new offensive coordinator on that 4th down play that I told you about. The 3rd down, I believe, you have a veteran wide receiver, DeAndre Carter, who is about 5'8", 5'9", and at 175 or 180. He is blocking Tyquan Lewis, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, a defensive lineman who's about 6'4", and about 265, 270 pounds. Think about that. You're asking a diminutive wide receiver who gives up about maybe 80, 90 pounds in terms of sizes to block a bigger defensive lineman. That is absolutely preposterous. I saw the same thing last year when Luke Getsy was running that same screen passes with no success whatsoever. And I just cannot believe that you had this entire offseason to implement a new system, and we're running the same shit over and over again. And I wrote on my column today about the Bears on their struggles. Mm-hmm. Right now, with at 1 and 2, you have the Rams coming in this Sunday, and the Rams, by the way, in a battle of the mash units between them and the 49ers, with so many stars out of the ball game, Sean McVay actually outcoached Kyle Shanahan and beat them for 27-24. Now, on paper, with the Rams missing both Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp.
Stephen, let me react a little bit first, then we can talk about the other stuff. But let me react about the Bears. Yeah. I really thought that I didn't see the Bears game, and I really didn't see the Browns game, which we'll discuss in a second. But I got to say that right now in his development, Caleb Williams has a lot to do. He has a lot to learn.
Right.
I people are talking and comparing him and Jalen Daniels, and I'm beginning to make these comparisons to C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Still too early for that, but I will say that Jalen Daniels, coming in as an older quarterback, coming in, he's seen a lot more than Caleb Williams. But I have to say that Williams has to show some things right now. We don't want to see him be another quarterback that's by the Bears that have, they draft him high and then don't protect him. They don't get him the tools that they need, and then they mess him up and he goes to another team. So you have to. The Bears have got to do something. They obviously right now they need a commitment to him, but I don't see anything wrong right now, Stephen. With at this point, just let him sit for a game or two, learn the system a little bit more, and let him, and don't let him get killed out there, because right now he's looking a little, at least from what I have seen, he's getting confused out there by the looks, and that's what's going to happen to a rookie quarterback. He's going to get looks that he's never seen before in college, and some of the things he got away with in college, he's not going to get away with in the NFL. So I don't think it's I know it's a little radical, and I know some Bears fans don't want to hear it, but I don't think it's a bad idea to sit him for a couple of games, let him learn, and then bring him back in. I don't see that anything wrong with that. But Stephen, I know that you probably have a little bit different opinion about that.
Well, I think the situation isn't as dire as Bryce Young getting benched. And, I think in week 3, the connection between him and Rome Odunze was certainly there. Obviously, he definitely overthrew some passes. But I think the point with the Bears is that the concerted effort to run the ball has to be there. And allowing or even asking DeAndre Swift, who you spent $24-25 million this past offseason to be the every down running back, I think it's a mistake. The run game has sputtered. Again, it goes to the problems with the offensive line, which unfortunately has regressed compared to a year ago. So we have to have somebody else run the ball, Roshan Johnson or Khalil Herbert, to establish the run. And I certainly would like to see, Caleb being under center rather than do stuff from the shotgun. That's something that every quarterback, especially if you're coming from college nowadays, you have to be able to play under center. And I think eventually they will get there. This upcoming Rams game, and then you have Carolina, who won their first game with Andy Dalton as a starting quarterback, and then the trip to London to face the winless Jacksonville Jaguars. The next 3 games are huge, and as I wrote in my column there, Ken, that the next 3 weeks certainly put a lot of scrutiny on the Bears and also their general manager Ryan Poles, who are getting a lot of heat now because of the lack of effort in terms of improving the offensive line. We have a center who gets pushed backwards so easily. Much maligned guard named Nate Davis, who hasn't been able to practice or stay healthy pretty much the entire time he's been here. And now he's on the bench. And, there are some issues with the offense. And then the next 3 weeks basically is going to make or break the Chicago Bears season. And if, God forbid, if the Bears are 2-4 or even 1-5, losing the next 3 games to teams that you're supposed to win, and the one with the Colts last Sunday, I should say, that should have been also a win as well. So you're looking at a situation where the season could go completely off rails, and allowing a defensive-minded coach like Matt Eberflus, who I think a lot of people will agree he is a great man and probably a great defensive coordinator, but probably at this point, not a good head coach. And I think that could seal his fate the next 3 weeks. And the question that will be posed to Ryan Poles, whose record is the same as the head coach at 11 wins and 26 losses since he took over, is that at what point do you pull the plug on Matt Eberflus? I understand the continuity, and I know the Bears have screwed up the quarterback development, pairing with the lame duck coach only to fire the very next year. I saw that with Mitch Trubisky with John Fox, Justin Fields with Matt Nagy, and now we're probably looking at the same thing with Matt Eberflus. But Eberflus still continues to show some of the rookie mistakes, even as a third year as a head coach. And I do believe that before things go completely, the season turns into a shipwreck, I have a feeling that Ryan Poles will have to have a serious conversation internally. And if he's very much serious about, Caleb Williams and his development, I would certainly hope that they have the gumption and the guts to pull the plug on Eberflus and let the other coaches, let the interim coach figure things out and see if the things would go up and above. I think they owe it to themselves. They owe it to the fans. I think Poles tying himself to Eberflus not only this year and also next year would put himself in danger of also being fired. And if you're fired as a general manager, especially if you're a minority candidate, with all due respect, your odds of becoming a general manager is lower. And if you're an African American, general manager, your opportunities, unfortunately, don't come around too easily. So I hope that Ryan Poles is praying that Matt Eberflus shows some improvements. But at the same time, if things go sideways in the next 3 games, and those 3 games that you are expected to win, I think that there needs to be a serious conversation have to be had internally inside Hallis Hall, in my opinion, Ken.
Right. Yeah, the Bears have got to do a lot of things, and they got to improve fast. Otherwise, it's going to be another lost season, and another season where they have to do a lot of thinking and see what they're going to have to do. And of course, Kevin Warren, who's hoping to push through a stadium project in Chicago. It's
or Arlington Heights, wherever it might be.
It's going to be a tough sell. All right, let's move on. You just briefly put up the banner there. Let's put it back up. The Cleveland Browns. We both predicted that the Browns would beat the Giants.
Yes.
Instead, and it looked good for the first play of the game because there was a recovery on a kickoff that the Giants decided to bring back, and the Browns quickly scored. It was 7-0. But then after that, Deshaun Watson, in his first 8 attempts, was sacked 3 times. And the Browns made the Giants look like the 1985 and 86 Giants with Lawrence Taylor and Jumbo Elliott and all those players, because the Browns were just absolutely horrific. There was no spirit. Again, Deshaun Watson, no spirit, no joy, no attempt to even try to do anything. This Giants defense, and the Giants team is not a good team. Let's just face it. They're not. They don't have a quarterback. They lost Saquon Barkley. We all saw what happened in the Hard Knocks offseason. Barkley is now playing very well. He ran a 65-yard touchdown against the New Orleans Saints on Sunday to help bring the Eagles back to win against the Saints team that had scored 40 points the 2 games before, in both games before this one. And then here we see the Browns, same old story. No imagination on offense, trying to rely on the defense. Instead, they fall behind, and there's nothing they can do. And then by the time they show any life, it's too late. They lose big time to the Giants. Again, I said I had some hope when they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, but then after we saw the Jaguars play horrifically against the Bills last night, losing 44-10, Stephen, that game, that week 2 game that probably the Browns won, was probably a paper tiger. I'm now thinking the Browns will probably be a 1-16 team. I have no hope for this team. None. As long as Deshaun Watson plays quarterback, Stephen, I just don't see this team doing anything, to be honest with you. Everyone said that there was the team that went last year. It was led by Joe Flacco, and he brought a lot of joy to that team. He had a lot of leadership. Deshaun Watson's showing nothing, and I think the Browns are trying to find that excuse to cut him. I don't know when that's going to be, but right now, Kevin Stefanski has shown me nothing. This Browns offense has shown me terrible things. Myles Garrett is being wasted on offense. On defense, I'm sorry. Myles Garrett, who is one of the best players in the National Football League, he's being wasted away in right now. He's trying to do everything he can, but he's only one man. You cannot win with Myles Garrett trying to hold up everything for your defense, where the rest of your defense can't make a tackle and can't play. I'm just very discouraged by this team, this whole organization. I wouldn't be surprised if Stefanski goes. I think probably Jimmy Haslam will try to call Bill Belichick, but I don't think Bill Belichick wants any part of this team. I wouldn't play. Why would he want to coach a disaster, especially when you have a quarterback like Deshaun Watson who just doesn't care? So Steven, right now, I wouldn't be surprised. And is Kevin Stefanski on the hot seat? He should be. He really should. This guy, I mean, yes, he's led it to the playoffs twice. But they've lost. They did have a win, emotional win against the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple of seasons ago when he had COVID. But last year they got beat up and blown out by the Houston Texans in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't right now that this team is just in shambles right now, Steven. And until they fix their quarterback situation, and how long that's going to take. Right now, this team is fluttering, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're just a bottom feeder, at least as long as Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski are on this team. So I have no confidence right now. I have none, absolutely zero. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if they're 1-16 at the end of the season. And I know that's overreaction, but that's how I feel right now. As a Browns fan, I have this organization has done nothing but failed its fans from season to season, ever since they came back. Whether it was the previous ownership, whether it's under Jimmy Haslam right now, and here's another team that's trying to hold hostage the city to try and get a stadium outside of the city. You know, I know the fans are say, "Hey, look, we went through this once before with Art Modell when he basically packed up and ran over to Baltimore." I don't know what Haslam's doing, but you're not going to get much support when you put a product in the field like that. So, and I'm very frustrated, just as you are about your Bears right now, Steven. I'm even more so about my Browns.
Yeah, I totally understand. Right now it's kind of interesting, that you and we both root for a team that has um, bad coaches, and right now I would say, based on what we've seen so far, I would think that Doug Peterson of the Jags are probably at number one on the hot seat list. Um, Matt Eberflus is there, right up there. I would put Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys also there. Stefanski, your Browns, and even he beat your Cleveland Browns. I would probably put Brian Daboll.
Yeah, he's got to be up there too.
He's got to be up there too. Those are my top 5 coaches who are on the hot seat right now, and that you could probably throw in maybe honorable mention as Antonio Pierce of the Raiders for losing to Carolina last Sunday, and then calling out players, for some of them for making business decisions. So that's not a good look there too as well.
No.
So I think those are probably the top 5, maybe, and then top 6 coaches who might be on the hot seat. And then you could also maybe throw in Zach Taylor. The Bengals yesterday lost to the the Washington Commanders. That Monday night game was quite quirky. It was a back and forth great win. You had 2 LSU quarterbacks who won Heisman Trophy, Joe Burrow versus Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels certainly got the last laugh. But I got to tell you, maybe we could probably put Zach Taylor up there in the list of coaches who could be on the whole hot seat, as the Bengals find themselves at 0-3 right now. Okay.
Well, I think the Bengals is probably, I use this cliche a lot, but the Bengals are probably the best 0-3 team in the NFL right now. I think they'll right the ship. And yes, the Bengals have always somehow managed to start slow every season and somehow make the playoffs. I do think that they're going to be I do think that they'll have a winning record at the end of the season, and they'll probably eke into the playoffs. Joe Burrow, there's nothing wrong with him. He played fine yesterday. It's just the fact that defense is terrible. That defense is absolutely horrible. And they made Jaden Daniels look like a Heisman Trophy winner out there. Granted, Jaden Daniels is talented. Let's not put anything under him. And he looks absolutely great out there. But let's see if the NFL defenses catch up with him as they figure out a way to try and defend. But right now, Washington has some reason to be hopeful, and they really do. And I have to say that I was pretty impressed how they played last night.
Right.
But right now, I think between the Bills and the Bengals, and we always talk about those two teams, which one is going to be the one to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs? And the Bengals did it a couple of seasons ago when they went to the Super Bowl.
Yes, they did. Yes.
Right now, it looks like the Buffalo Bills are looking a little bit better. They're 3-0. They played fantastic last night. And of course, when you play the Jacksonville Jaguars and that horrible effort that they put up, you're going to look like the best team in the world. So let's see how they play. Let's see how the Bills play. See if they come down to earth. I do think the Bengals are going to have a much better effort. Their schedule gets better now. They're going to be playing They're going to play my Browns at least in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that they will get better. I think they'll probably be. And I do think that by week 6, Stephen, they will be at 500. And the fan base, as much as I hate it pains me for Cincinnati. I think that they will be 500 and right the ship. They have to, otherwise. But I don't think that Zach Taylor's on the hot seat yet. He has he showed that his team can play Kansas City, and of course they got a couple of bad calls the last couple of weeks, including one in the end zone on a 2-point conversion last night against Washington. That could have easily. That should have been called, to be honest with you. But
that should have been called there too.
Yeah, but I will say this right now: Cincinnati and Buffalo still on the below the tier for below Kansas City. One of those two teams will probably play them in the AFC Championship, but we'll see how it goes, Stephen. But right now, Cincinnati has a race to go, but I do think that they'll right the ship.
Now, looking at the other games, Steelers beat the Chargers and the teams of unbeaten, 20-10. Justin Fields, look, as a former Bears fan, I'm very happy that Justin Fields is doing well in Pittsburgh and in a right system. But, it's kind of interesting that they haven't really committed to him just yet. They're kind of letting him, limit the mistakes, making him kind of being a more of somewhat of a game manager type. And, I still haven't seen him break out, big runs like I was so used to seeing him in Chicago just yet. So, I'll be very curious to see that, with Russell Wilson still on a very long calf injury, quote unquote, this upcoming game against the Steelers, I believe they're playing. Who are they playing? Let me take a look here. Week 4. I know they're playing somebody pretty, interesting here. Week 4. Let me see here. My apologies here, folks. Stop me if you see something here, Ken.
Okay.
I don't see the Steelers here. Are they? Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Steelers face the Indianapolis Colts on the road. So this could be another, a win for the Steelers and Justin Fields, and maybe. Just maybe they're hoping that another week of practice and another good performance, that might eventually seal the deal for, the Steelers to finally move on and make Justin Fields as their, de facto starter over Russell Wilson. And, whoever needs a quarterback, Russell Wilson is still is available, and he hasn't played a damn game so far this year yet. So, maybe that's what the Steelers are probably thinking. If you go 4-0, how can you move on from Justin Fields at this point, right?
Right. And Russell Wilson, there's speculation that the Miami Dolphins may try to make a deal for him now that Tua Tagovailoa is still out. They need, and of course their quarterback situation. Their backup got hurt, and now they're in the third string. So, and they need that. They need a good backup right now, and
right.
We see the value of a very experienced backup, Stephen, when Andy Dalton came off the bench for Bryce Young and led the Carolina Panthers to their first win. And they're actually one of my friends, Lauren Brownlow, who I used to be on the radio with every week down in Carolina. She's a big Panthers fan, and she said that for the first time in like a long time, she felt good after a game and was rooting and actually screaming and rooting for the house, actually scaring her son a couple of times. So I really think that that really shows you the value of an experienced backup quarterback. And while Andy
Right.
Dalton was like saying, well, Andy Dalton, he's like 85 years old. Well, what did he do? He picked apart a defense because he's experienced and knows what it is out there. And yes,
Right.
he's going to be. Is he the same guy as he was against when he was with the Cincinnati Bengals in the last decade? No, but he's a man who can understand and can slow the game down to the point where he can manage and make passes and make plays, whereas Bryce Young still cannot do that right yet. So, um, will the Miami Dolphins make a deal for Russell Wilson? We'll have to wait and see. They're
Right.
even looking, according to Adam Schefter, they're looking at Zach Wilson, who I would definitely shy away from. But the Miami Dolphins need somebody, and they're desperate right now. So I will see what happens on that. But Stephen, very interesting about that game. Andy Dalton, when I got home from work, the Red Zone was featuring that game quite a bit, along with San Francisco and Los Angeles, which we'll talk about in a second. But I have to say, for Andy Dalton to do that, and the Carolina wide receivers who were like over the last 5 games, even dating back to last season, who are dropping passes for bumping into each other, falling down, not even trying to all of a sudden to make plays. Well, when you have confidence in your quarterback, that's what happens. You start making catches, you start making plays, you start actually saying, hey, here's a guy who knows how to run an offense. I'm going to do my best for him. Instead of like, oh, here's Bryce Young. Where's he going to throw the ball? I have no idea. I'm right here. I'm standing in front, but he throws it to the other guy for an interception. So it shows you the value of experience, Stephen. And I don't know why more NFL teams don't do this to help their young quarterbacks out, because you need that experience on the sideline to help your guy instead of a pedestrian backup, which is what happened in Miami. And so many other teams, Stephen, we're not seeing a decent backup. They're just want to get a warm body, and just pay them not enough to take a spot on the bench. And you see the value of an Andy Dalton sitting on the bench, because that's what happened. He brought him back for a win, and sure. Do you want to see your backup in there? No, you don't. But you also want to have him there to lead them, to have the experience to come in and lead your team to a win when it's absolutely necessary, like it was with Carolina against the Raiders on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that Carolina winning with Andy Dalton kind of sealed the deal for Bryce Young. Unfortunately, I think if anything, Miami probably could use Bryce Young as their starting quarterback, somebody who can sit behind, Tua Tagovailoa, just in case if he suffers another unfortunate, concussion and maybe forced to retire. At least you have one former Alabama quarterback to another who, I believe Bryce Young ended up replacing Tua, when he became the starting quarterback at Alabama. So there's a, connection there. So, for me as a Bears fan, the Bears are still on the Carolina Panthers, a second-round pick from this upcoming draft, which I think a lot of people, myself included, were thinking, okay, it is the 33rd pick. But, now all of a sudden the game against the Panthers that the Bears face next Sunday here in Chicago is no longer a gimme because of what Andy Dalton did. So, good for Carolina. I know David Tepper deserves a lot of crap for being such a bad owner, but hey, listen, you don't want to go 0-16, 0-17, or 1-16 that they went through last year. So, kudos to Drew Canales, who won his first game as the new Panthers head coach. And will be interesting to see just how long can Andy Dalton carry the Panthers moving forward. Now, the Rams beat the 49ers. And, the Rams are coming into Chicago to face the Bears. And I'm a little bit petrified because it's just how good of a coach Sean McVay is. Is simply amazing that I mentioned earlier, discussing the Bears against the Colts. The Rams are coming in without Puka Nacua and both Cooper Kupp. And yet somehow they still beat the 49ers. Now, the 49ers were also without Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel. And the Rams were actually losing to the 49ers late in the fourth quarter.
Double digits, too.
Yeah, I remember. And then the 49ers had a chance to extend their lead had it not been for, their kicker, Jake Moody, missing a 55-yard field goal. And then from there, the Rams made a furious comeback and, won their very first game of the season. So, going from 0-2 to 1-2 is better than going from 1-0 to 1-2, which is what the Chicago Bears are. And, I have to say, Sean McVay is, proving that, coaching does matter in this league more than ever. And, and I'll get to, I will touch on my, the division rivals, Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings and the job that he's doing with the, Sam Darnold as the quarterback. The Vikings just blew away the Houston Texans, the same Texans that beat up on the Bears, on Sunday nights a week ago. The Vikings are 3-0, unfortunately, as a Bears fan. We might have underestimated, the Vikings and just how good of a job Kevin O'Connell is doing as an offensive coordinator and a head coach. So, yeah, coaching does matter. And Sean McVay deserves a lot of credit. And he is probably in the top 5 head coach right now in the NFL, in my opinion, Ken.
Yeah, McVay is here's a guy who every time you think that he is going to be either going to leave or
he made a lot of noise about that a couple of years ago too.
Or just figure out that I just don't. I'm bored. He sometimes he looks bored out there, to be honest with you. But then when he plays a division game like against the 49ers, and again, SoFi Stadium sounded like a lot like Levi Stadium South with the fans. But you got to say you got to hand it to the Rams for showing they could have easily, packed it in, especially after they were down double digits to the 49ers, but they found a way. And you know what? With Sean McVay, and he's won a Super Bowl, you'll find he somehow manages to find a way. And I'm very impressed with him. I know that TV is enamored and wants to see him retire, but I really, to be honest with you, if he shows things like that and continues to do stuff with hardly anything, okay, I don't want to say hardly anything, but with the as you mentioned, with the receivers out and they lost they've lost a lot of players to free agency over the last couple of seasons and coaches as well, Stephen. But
right.
Sean McVay just goes to show you that he is really one of the better coaches out there, and I'm very impressed. And for them to beat the 49ers the way they did, and now the 49ers are a little bit reeling right now. They're 1-2 as well, Stephen. You mentioned, the way that you are 1-2, looking out after you're 0-2, you get a big win. That 1-2 looks certainly much better than after the first win. You win the first game of the season, and then you lose your next two. There are a lot of questions about the 49ers right now. And right now you have to say that, even though both the Niners and the Rams have the same record, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rams go on an upward trajectory, especially with the 49ers down and with a lot of players hurt out there right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rams if this gives them a spark for the next part of the season.
Absolutely. And then finally, we look at the big game, another Tom Brady game on Fox. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Dallas Cowboys 28-25. The game itself wasn't as that close. The score, might indicate it was a close game, but it was just basically, the Baltimore Ravens having their way, and and they just got a little bit, they took the foot off the pedal and then allowed the Cowboys to get back into the ball game. But there's something a little bit off with the these Ravens, and obviously you know them very well. With your Browns in the same division, you face twice a year. Ken, I know. I think it was who it was. I forgot the name of the Baltimore player who didn't seem to have been enamored with the John Harbaugh's decision to kind of, ease off, toward the end of the game. I don't know if it was Lamar Jackson who said it, but that was the case. I know John Harbaugh wasn't as aggressive as he was, in the past. And I don't know if the loss to the Raiders the week before may have kind of had an impact on him. And it's hard to believe it, but I know there are some fans in Baltimore are ready to move on from John Harbaugh right now. And even the reliable Justin Tucker missed a field goal again. He's missed a couple of them already this year, probably like 2 or 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken, already. There's something a little bit off about the Ravens and as well as the Cowboys. Both are 1-2, of course. But with the Cowboys, their defense is unable to stop anybody. Of course, I think they miss Dan Quinn's energy and aggressiveness. Mike Zimmer is a bit of a, and I hate to use this term, a bit of a stale person, stale personality. So far, the Cowboys defense hasn't been able to stop, not many big plays. Their run game is probably on an equal par with the Bears in terms of how bad it is. And you saw a lot of players on the sideline, down with the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb pouting, Micah Parsons and, the Marcus Lawrence yelling at each other on the sidelines, and Jerry Jones, admitting he couldn't afford Derrick Henry, who had a very good game against the Cowboys. And, it's both teams are 1-2, but, Ravens, I don't say that this is a convincing win. The Cowboys are kind of in a, turmoil right now. That's how I saw it in the, the game that Tom Brady did it for the 3rd straight week with the Cowboys on Fox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say that the Cowboys for a long time during that game just didn't look good at all. Dak Prescott looked lost out there. Finally, Derrick Henry got the ball as we were said he should have gotten the ball. Lamar Jackson didn't try to make any type of destructive runs and make himself vulnerable to hits. You let Derrick Henry run the ball. He did a great job. And that's why the Baltimore Ravens went out to a very fast lead. And as you mentioned, they were up like 28-13. It went down to 28-23 before the Ravens were able to run out the clock. But I have to say, Stephen, you're right. There's something seems to be a little bit off about the Ravens. But when it comes push to shove, they and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to contend for the division along with Cincinnati. And meanwhile, my Browns will be 1-16, as I said. I have no hope. But I have to say, right now, as it stands, the Ravens are the class of the division, and they are until somebody knocks them off. And if it's going to be the Steelers, or if it's going to be, I know the Bengals are 0-3, but they can find a way to get back into this division, Stephen. And when you have the schedule that they have for over the next 3 weeks, I have a feeling that they're going to be 3-3. And the Ravens, they've got to find a way to get better, and we'll see what happens. But this AFC North division is going to be quite black and blue, with the exception of my Browns, who will be a bottom feeder. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Let's kind of take a quick look at the week 4 of the NFL. Thursday night, this Thursday, Cowboys and the Giants, both are 1-2. Obviously, certainly, both teams need to win to stay within the divisional race. Both teams are kind of in the bottom feeder of the NFC East right now. This game could probably propel one of the, either one of them to stay in the divisional race, or even in the NFC wildcard races. moving forward. Saints are no longer undefeated. They got beat badly. They lost to the Eagles. They blew a lead, unfortunately. So, very interested to see what the divisional battle between the Saints and the Falcons, both coming off a loss. The Jaguars and the Texans. Jaguars are 0-3. And I got to tell you, Jags owner Shaq Khan is kind of losing his patience right now. And if the Texans completely blow them off, Ken, I would not rule out Doug Peterson completely being fired the same day or maybe the next day. So this is a game that is somewhat worth watching or keeping a close eye on. The Vikings and the Packers, 2 3-0 teams. One of them will have to suffer their first loss of the season. It's going to be very, very interesting because, this could be a very, very high scoring affair on the road, especially in Green Bay. The weather won't be a problem, but, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what kind of a game it's going to be for, 2 undefeated teams. Let's see. And, the Sunday night game, of course, is the Bills and the Ravens. Ravens return home. They haven't won a game at home yet. So this is going to be a very interesting game. Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. A very, very interesting game. 2 MVP candidates. The Bills are on a roll, certainly, with Josh Allen, the way he played yesterday. I think he's an early MVP candidate. Let's see what happens if the Ravens have whatever it takes. And I got to tell you, Ken, another Monday night doubleheader. I got to say, to be forced to watch 2 games simultaneously, and switching, from one channel to another, or having 2 TVs, I don't know. I don't know if I'm a fan of a doubleheader on Monday night. 1 week it's fine, but having it back to back, I'm not so sure about that. Ken, what do you say?
Well, it kind of worked out last night, Stephen, because we had Buffalo blowing out Jacksonville, and then so you had the second game, which was pretty competitive between Washington and Cincinnati. So that kind of worked out. We're going to be seeing this a few times during the season. I think there's 4 NFL Monday night doubleheaders during the season, which will be staggered times again. We'll see how that works out. ESPN has it in their contract as part of their expanded seasons, and of course, working for the towards the Super Bowl in a couple of seasons from now. Steven. So we'll see what happens. I don't mind it. I as long as it's not every week, Steven. But it gives you something special to watch, and especially, like I said, if one's a blowout, you can always switch to the other game. As you're well aware, I have 2 TVs in my family room, so I watch the game. So I'm able to watch them, have sound up on one game or, lower on the other. I don't mind that, but that's the reason why I have 2 TVs in my family room. I'm a little crazy that way, but, it provides me with something to watch. And, on a Monday night, there's nothing wrong with having 2 games, especially if they're good. It'll be fun to see. But,
sure.
Like
Absolutely.
I said, it's not every week, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you have the Titans and the Dolphins, I believe, 7:30 on ESPN. This was a rematch from last year that the Titans had a shocking comeback victory, if I'm not mistaken, Ken, late in the season. Now, the Titans are 0-3, one of the few teams that are still winless. The Dolphins are hurting, of course, unfortunately, because of the quarterback situation. So, it will be very interesting to see, how many points can be scored in between 2 teams. Then if this game is, I hate to say, complete trash, you can move on to the regular ABC, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman broadcast team of the Seahawks and the Lions. This is going to be a very interesting, exciting game. The Seahawks are still undefeated. They go on the road. They go to, the Detroit, Ford Field, Dome Stadium. It's going to be very, very loud. But, it's going to be an interesting contest. this is a type of game that the Lions must get up and must prove that they're able to handle at home, facing a very good opponent. So this could be a very, very exciting game, the one that goes very much down to the wire. So, I guess we could be looking at the same type of ordeal where one game is a complete trash and a blowout, and then the one game, Seahawks and the Lions, that could be very much a nail biter toward the end of the game. All right, Ken, let's move on to the baseball. Final week of the MLB season is upon us, and there are still a couple of playoff spots that are still being decided, and it will be decided this week, certainly. But outside of the playoffs, obviously, has been the story of the Oakland and Athletics. This is their final week playing in Oakland, as we all know. They're going to be playing in Sacramento next year in their very tiny minor league facility before, who knows where they're going to go afterwards. I know they're going to try and do all they can to get to Las Vegas, but, the Vegas doesn't want them. But, they could be like a traveling vagabond after Sacramento. So obviously this is their final week up in the Bay Area, unfortunately. I know your boss, Ben Koo, he's from the area, and he's spoken very, very fondly of the A's and the bemoaned the situation when we had him earlier this year. And, I want to play a clip of, a video from your website, Ken, Awful Announcing. This is Larry Beal, KGO announcer, the sportscaster, sports director, and also formerly of ESPN, Sports Center anchor. And this was a very much something that was well received from what he had to say about their embattled owner, John Fisher, and their press release. Here we go.
Yep. Pull up full screen. Yep. Go ahead.
Is that the letter right there?
This is the letter. This is a great work of fiction, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what it is. So many A's fans would say this explanation is both weak and long overdue, but we're finally hearing from Fisher about exactly how we got to this point in time. Fisher says he knows the A's are part of the fabric of Oakland, and then goes on to explain his version of reality. Fisher says when he and his business partner, Lou Wolf, bought the team back in 2005, quote, "Our dream was to win world championships and build a new ballpark in Oakland. Over the next 18 years, we did our very best to make that happen. We proposed and pursued 5 different locations in the Bay Area. And despite mutual and ongoing efforts to get a deal done for the Howard Terminal project, we came up short." Now, he goes on to say, "I know there is great disappointment, even bitterness. Though I wish I could speak to each one of you individually, I can tell you this from the heart. We tried. Staying in Oakland was our goal. It was our mission, and we failed to achieve it. And for that, I am genuinely sorry." Now, over the weekend, the A's hosted the Yankees for the final time at the Coliseum, and it was emotional. They got swept in 3 games, the A's did, but the series brought out some of the biggest crowds of the season to the Coliseum. The final series ever in Oakland starts tomorrow. The A's hosting the Texas Rangers. The very last game at the Coliseum is set for Thursday afternoon, starting at 12:45. That game is sold out, by the way. Cheapest resale tickets are going for around $65. In typical A's fashion, they raised the price for the last game. All right, so you heard Fisher's statement. Let me tell you what reality is, okay? John, you tried 5 different, extremely flawed stadium proposals. You never got even close to a shovel in the ground. Yes, Oakland politics is often a mess. I will give you that. But John, you surround yourself with incompetent yes men. And because you were born into a billionaire family, apparently never learned you have to spend money to make money. See Joe Lacob and the Golden State Warriors, your buddy, who still wants to buy the team. John, you're a serial penny pincher. You've destroyed your family's great name and legacy because of your cheapness. As for the statement about loyal A's fans, quote, "I wish I could speak to each and every one of you individually," end quote. Seriously? John, we've been trying to interview you for years, but you always choose to remain invisible unless you're begging politicians for public funding. And then you're out in front in Las Vegas. Okay.
Okay.
So let me just deal with this. for all A's fans, I can't do this enough. But here's the thing: there's one glimmer of hope. They're going to supposedly play 3 years in Sacramento.
Right.
If other owners and the Players Association had any spine at all, they would say, no, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. We have yet to see a real financing plan for the A's stadium in Las Vegas.
Right.
We're still waiting. Vegas is still waiting. They don't have one. Yes, 18 years they've tried, and they've screwed it up every time. I don't know that that's going to change. I would love to see another massive failure by this ownership group, and then maybe Major League Baseball would force a sale to somebody locally. And there's a bunch of groups. Don't listen to anybody that says there's no fan base or there's no money in Oakland. That's total nonsense. I can go call 3 billionaires right now that would buy the team, okay? So, yeah, that's who I hang with.
I wish I had a microphone for you so you could drop it right here.
I was going to say, you can take the rest of the show.
Yeah.
We only have about 53 minutes.
I can continue? All right.
Yes, you can.
No, anyway, I mean, I guess like most A's fans, I'm balancing between sadness and anger.
Yeah.
And right now, I think anger's winning.
And so
I've never seen you like this.
that statement does nothing for anybody, any A's fan out there.
No, you sort of have to release a statement. I mean, what would be nice is a news conference where you take questions, but that we haven't seen. We've never seen
why
that.
start now?
Why start now? Exactly. It's only been 18 years. Anyway.
Speaking on behalf of A's fans everywhere, the frustration. Thank you.
I'm going to go calm down.
Yeah. Do some yoga.
So, go ahead, Ken.
We're going to wrap it up here, but you pretty much saw what Larry Beal had to say. I've been to that park a few times, Oakland, Alameda County Coliseum. Even back then when I saw it in 2000, it was in disrepair, but at least at that time, they had a caring owner. They had the Levi's family there who were part of it. Unfortunately, John Fisher came in, has destroyed everything about that very proud franchise. Larry Beal is absolutely correct. It's they just don't care. They just, because of he wanted a new stadium, he let the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum go into disrepair. It looks absolutely horrible. We all heard about the viral story about rats and chipmunks running amok in the stadium, and about flooding of the bathrooms, flooding, sewage, terrible. This is all John Fisher's doing. And that letter was just a piece, as Larry Beal said, a piece of garbage. I just wish that the fans deserve better. The fans of Oakland. This is a franchise that won 3 straight world championships from 1972 to 1974. Charlie Finley owned the team, and actually they averaged 5,000 fans a game during that season, during those years during the regular season, because he actually nickel and dimed the fans there too. But when the Levi's people came in, they actually spent money on the team. And while we all know about Moneyball and how Billy Beane came in there and did a lot of things to try and win on the cheap, but still, there was care. There was absolutely, the ownership cared. But now we have John Fisher. He's tried to blackmail the city of Oakland. He's actually tried to build a stadium in San Jose as well. It didn't work. And as he mentioned, the team is going to be playing in Sacramento, in a place where it is known for its weather, which is very hot. There's talk about that the A's may have to play at 10 o'clock in the morning to avoid the heat and humidity at night. And they would go to Las Vegas, where the heat and humidity is even worse. So I don't know what John Fisher's thinking there, but we'll see. He has no plan. There's been no financing plan. They're trying to build the stadium at the old Tropicana on the Strip. That's going to be a potential disaster with all the traffic in Las Vegas, Steven. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, baseball has a serious problem with the ownership right now. You have the White Sox and Jerry Reinsdorf. We touched on the skating article that was written by Ken Rosenthal in The Athletic. Greg Giroli, I believe, was also involved. I'm sorry for maybe botching the name there, but that was a skating article about the sad situation of the White Sox, who, by the way, started playing, and probably if they lose tonight, they will set the record for the most loss in the season in Major League Baseball history. And then you could also throw in, in hidden behind the Jerry Reinsdorf and John Fisher is the Colorado Rockies ownership of the Munford family, led by Dick Munford, who I know the fans in Colorado are despised. With the way that the Rockies are being run right now, they have the worst record, and if it wasn't for the White Sox, of course, and then maybe the Oakland Athletics, they have arguably the worst, or probably the second worst record in baseball right now. And it's a sad situation overall. The baseball has a serious problem with some of these owners who are running the team down to the ground, like John Fisher is doing. And there are certain owners, again, like Reinsdorf's and, Dick Munford, who aren't all that committed to winning, putting winning products. And I can say the same as the Chicago Cubs, who are very much frustrated with the way that, Tom Ricketts is running the organization right now. Greg Counsell said that we should be aiming for 90-plus wins. And I think it's a frustration that is coming from a manager who is paid, $8 million, most in the major leagues. But, if the ownership isn't committed to winning, $8 million means jack squat. And maybe this is a way of a message that is being sent from Craig Counsell to, begging for the team to do something. But we'll see what happens this offseason. But, again, John Fisher, literally burned the bridges with the, Oakland and the Bay Area community. So I don't know how in the world he's going to do that with the Vegas or Sacramento or wherever else he's going to take this team to. If things in Vegas don't work out, again, will the baseball step in and do something about it? Who knows? It's a sad situation that, unfortunately, that is quite common in the American sports scenes where teams, pack up and leave. We saw that with the Baltimore Colts moving to Indianapolis. Your Browns left to go to, Baltimore before they were rewarded the franchise. You saw the Seattle Supersonics leaving to go to Oklahoma, a much smaller market, and, become the Thunder, which obviously is a very successful franchise now. But, people are still clamoring for, the basketball to be returned to Seattle. And that might still happen. But, yeah, but it will be very, very interesting to see, if all these saga, makes baseball, watchable. And, with the season winding down, unfortunately, these ugly, situations, unfortunately, will not go away. And we'll keep an eye on this situation and see how it happens. Obviously, again, Thursday is the last game in Oakland, and it's kind of a sad that, the history and the tradition kind of gets step aside or just completely being ignored, Ken.
Right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for another show. We like to thank you for watching, and we will be back with you next week for another edition of the A-Team. Stephen, I know we have a lot of things to discuss next week with the NFL, and of course the playoff picture in the NBA, in the Major League Baseball will probably be a little bit clearer next week as we get to the Major League Baseball postseason.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll make sure to follow us on X and also on our YouTube channel you see down there below. For Ken Fang, I'm Stephen Nagishi. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you again next week.